Inoue is trying to make history, and there's only one man in his way. On December 26th, we're being gifted yet another undisputed battle. The monster Naoya Inoue and the nightmare Marlon Tapales are set to unify their belts to battle for the undisputed at Super Bantamweight. Hello, kamusta? My name is Gino. Let's go ahead and look at the stats and the facts, their styles, their keys to victory, and my prediction for this historic bout. Naoya Inoue sports a record of 25 wins and 22 by KO. He's currently the WBC and WBO Super Bantamweight champion, stopping Stephen Fulton in the 8th round earlier this year. He was the WBC Light Flyweight champion in 2014 and the WBO Super Flyweight champion later in that same year up until he moved up in weight in 2018 to become the undisputed Bantamweight champion in 2022. So essentially, he's an undefeated 4-division former undisputed lineal champion. Marlon Tapales, on the other hand, is the WBA and IBF Super Bantamweight champion, winning a hard-fought split decision victory over Murjan Akhmadaliev also earlier this year. He was once the WBO Bantamweight champion back in 2016, winning it against two-time champion Panya Uthok. Though beating his next opponent Shohei Amori via TKO, Tapales failed to make weight and was stripped of his title. He would lose his next title bout to Ryosuke Iwasa in 2019 via TKO in the 11th round for the interim IBF Super Bantamweight belt. His two other losses came earlier in his career, losing to a David Sanchez by majority decision in 2013 and losing to Brix Ray via stoppage in 2009. To put it all together, he's a 2-division unified world champion. Some of you may notice the difference in KO percentage, 36% higher as a matter of fact for Inoue. Tapales has a 51% KO ratio and Inoue has an 88% KO ratio. However, if we look at Tapales' resume, you'll find that every win he's had since 2015, aside from his last bout, has been by KO. He was on a 7 KO win streak up until his loss to Iwasa in 2019, and a 3 KO win streak after that up until his decision win over Akhmadaliev. My point being is that Tapales' power is not something to gloss over. He's been knocking people out in recent years, so Inoue needs to look out for that. Inoue is an orthodox fighter, Tapales is a southpaw fighter. Inoue is no stranger to southpaws in recent years. He's fought Donaire, who is a notorious switch hitter, Dasmariñas and Piano, also southpaws. On the other hand, Tapales has mostly fought orthodox fighters. Both fighters are going to be used to fighting against the opposite stance. These two are fairly similar in the height and reach department, Inoue having a minor advantage. Inoue stands at 5 foot 5 inches with a 67.5-inch reach. Tapales, on the other hand, stands at 5 foot 4 with a 65-inch reach. So Inoue is going to have a 1-inch height advantage and a 2-inch reach advantage. As for their ages, they're practically the same age, Inoue being 30 and Tapales being 31. They're practically the same age. But what isn't practically the same is their experience. Tapales has over 100 more rounds and 15 more fights as a professional. However, that being said, the real difference, is the caliber of opponents they've fought. Let me break it down for you. Inoue has fought 11 world champions, 12 if you count his duology with Donaire. He's beaten former unified light flyweight champion Ryoichi Taguchi, 2-time light flyweight champion Adrian Hernandez, 2-time Olympian and 2-division world champion Omar Narvaez, 2-time superfly champion Kohei Kono, 2-time bantamweight champion Jamie McDonnell, 2-time Olympian and bantamweight champion Juan Carlos Piano, 2-time bantamweight champion and current IBF bantamweight champion Emmanuel Rodriguez, future Hall of Famer, 4-division, lineal, 6-time world champion Nonito Donaire twice, the current WBO bantamweight champion Jason Maloney, 2-time bantamweight champion Paul Butler, and most recently the former unified super bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton. That is a mouthful of champions. On the other hand, Marlon Tapales has fought 3 world champions, losing to one of them. He's beaten 2-time bantamweight champion Pangluang Sorsingyu and Olympic bronze medalist and former unified super bantamweight champion Murjan Akhmadaliev. And he did lose to former super bantamweight champion Ryosuke Iwasa in 2019. While Tapales might have more rounds and fights as a professional, Inoue has fought more higher caliber opponents than Tapales. So, that being said, I want to give the experience advantage over to Inoue. Back in my very first video on Inoue, I incorrectly labeled him as a pressure fighter. While this is technically true, It ultimately undermines his full boxing skill set. Inoue has evolved to more of a boxer puncher. In short, it means he's a jack of all trades. He can do essentially anything. He's capable of fighting on the front foot and applying pressure, and on the back foot when he wants to box. Evidently, he leans more towards being a pressure fighter, standing in front of you and picking you apart. Inoue's guard is also worth noting. He varies his guard from high guard and Philly shell, which is something we just saw against Stephen Fulton. That being said, Inoue is also a notorious body puncher. He loves going downstairs. This will be a massive problem for Tapales, and I will talk about it more in the next section of this video. Now, let's talk about Tapales' style. His style has also evolved over the years. I feel like it's fair to also label him as a boxer puncher. He knows how to brawl, he has that sort of power, but I've seen that he's become more and more patient over the years. That being said, he tends to fight more on the back foot. Additionally, he's become more adept to counter-punching. When watching his most recent fight, it's also worth mentioning that Tapales used a southpaw Philly shell guard. Not too certain if Tapales will come into the fight using a southpaw Philly shell stance. We will see the day of the fight. Let's start off with Inoue's keys to victory. Number 1 is go to the body and attack the liver. Like I mentioned, Inoue is a bona fide body puncher. That is a massive problem for Tapales, simply because he's a southpaw. For those of you who are newer to boxing, being southpaw means your stance has your right hand and right foot forward. This also means your liver is closer to your opponent. And for those of you who don't know, getting hit in the liver can be described as paralyzing, intense pain. I've experienced getting hit in the liver quite a few times in sparring, and I can say that I'd rather get hit in the face. Inoue made quick work of southpaw Michael Dasmariñas in 2021, Inoue repeatedly attacking the liver, knocking down and eventually knocking him out with liver shots alone. Tapales really has to double down on his guard to avoid this. His second key to victory is to maintain pressure. Inoue needs to maintain pressure for the entirety of the fight. He cannot let Tapales get any sort of momentum. His third key to victory is to step outside of Tapales' lead foot. This is a basic strategy when fighting a southpaw fighter. He needs to step on the outside and land that straight right. To sum it up, Inoue needs to attack the body, maintain pressure, and be sure to step on the outside of Tapales' lead foot. As for Tapales, I figured 3 things that he should do. Jab to the body, double it up, keep the jab active. He needs to nullify Inoue's forward movement and not allow him to get any sort of timing or any sort of momentum. He can do that by using his jab and keeping it active. Then he can follow up with a straight left down the pipe. Next is to stay defensively responsible and stay out of the pocket. Tapales generally has good defense, however, he still gets hit pretty often. He has a bad habit of lunging in on his opponents, and hopefully he'll get it corrected during training camp. His last key to victory is to gain Inoue's respect, and I don't mean that in a literal sense. I mean that Tapales has to show that he is a massive threat. He needs to land some power shots of his own and make Inoue think twice before coming in. Throw that overhand left and move away. To sum it up, Tapales needs to have an active jab, stay defensively responsible, and gain Inoue's respect. Now, onto my prediction. To begin, I want to make something very clear. I am Filipino. I want to see other Filipinos do great things in the world, boxing included. So, as a Filipino outside of my YouTube channel, I'm rooting for Marlon Tapales. However, as a boxing content creator, I need to put my ethnicity aside and be as unbiased as possible. So, as Gino the YouTuber, my pick is going to Naoya Inoue. I think that Inoue is going to be a bit much for Marlon Tapales. I think he's going to get caught in the middle rounds. But you should never count out a Filipino. Maybe we'll get the upset of the decade. If Inoue wins this, he'll further cement his legacy by becoming a 2-time undisputed champion. If Tapales wins this, he'll be propelled into boxing stardom. That's going to be all from me. The fight takes place on December 26th. Don't miss it. Thank you so much for watching, and this has been Gino's Fight Corner.